Welcome to New Life Live with host and founder of New Life Ministries, Stephen Arterburn. For 35 years, New Life has been transforming lives one at a time thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's Steve.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to New Life Live. So glad you're with us today. And joining me right here in the studio, Becky Brown. Hey,
Hi,
Becky.
Steve.
Been a while since we've been in the same studio.
It's been a while, but I love it so much.
Yeah. Becky is the new vice president of
Ministry.
How about that? And we have a new president, Whitney Putnam, and we have a vice president of development. That's Brian Blumberg, and Becky's the new vice president of ministry. We've just got a great team forming, and everybody's coming into the Indianapolis studio and office, and we're going to have a little meetup here today. It's going to be good.
Fun.
New Life has some great days ahead.
We do. New leadership and new direction. It's refreshing to see it. And it's all because from the very beginning, we've only been able to do what we do with the help and support of people like you. And so thank you, everybody that's allowed us to exist. Imagine this, 35 years. November the 11th is our official 35th anniversary. Pretty exciting, you know.
And you think about all the lives that have changed over the 35 years. And we hear testimonies all the time about how New Life Live, even back then when you had to sit in your car, because if you didn't hear the answer to the question, you couldn't go in wherever you were going. You had to sit in the car and listen to it, right, Joel?
Yep.
We changed lives of people sitting in cars because they could only hear us on the radio, and now you can hear us on the web, on a podcast. I mean, it's just amazing. YouTube, all the places,
Well, one of my favorite things, I talk about it all the time, is the lady that said, I had to park near the aluminum recycling bin, and that's where it seemed, the signal seemed to be coming in greater. I don't know if the cans were like antennas. I don't know. But anyway, that's what she did, and it was fun.
It was worth it, though. See, it meant so much to her to listen to godly counsel, and it really has changed a lot of people's lives.
And to hear people say, just today I was talking to a person on an interview, and the producer came on and said, you know, every man's battle impacted me, my kids, my family. And that's the thing that is so amazing. One guy decides to go to every man's battle, and then now the marriage stays together. He's a different kind of father to the kids. I mean, it just goes on generation after generation. The Bible's really clear that, you know, you could inherit a sin or two for a generation or two, but when things go well, I mean, it's just hundreds of generations are impacted by that. And your family tree might be full of cactus or whatever, I don't know. Anyway, prickly
I was
pears.
going to say nuts, but
Yeah.
I mean,
that
It could be that. Yeah, fruit or nuts. Anyway.
Fruit or nuts.
So, but you could be the transitional branch.
Yeah, absolutely. But just to chime in, one thing that I have loved over the 35 years is watching every stage of change as we have changed to meet the needs of people.
Yes.
And as different needs have come to the forefront, we've tried to rise to meet those.
Right. And, you know, the big needs have just come onto the program and represent the needs out there, such as this need for grandparents to see their children and their grandchildren and the kids they raised cutting off access. That's a pretty common thing, and 20 years ago we weren't taking those phone calls.
No.
They just didn't exist. Now, it's a complex world. Nice to have truth that stays the truth is always the truth to follow. The problem is we just don't follow. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come right back with phone calls here on New Life Live.
Our marriage was just so toxic and just so many simple interactions that turned into conflict. And so we signed up to participate in the workshop.
This is Steve Arterburn. Our Intimacy in Marriage workshop examines the various types of intimacy, spiritual, emotional, and physical, as well as the challenges of experiencing true intimacy.
The tools that we received from the Intimacy in Marriage workshop were tremendous. It was so much that we were able to take and utilize and actually come back and apply.
Don't settle for a miserable marriage or even one that's just okay. It's possible to have that great marriage you always want.
The next Intimacy in Marriage workshop is October 20th to the 23rd in Dallas, Texas. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE to find out more or go to newlife.com. 1-800-639-5433.
Best decision we could have ever made. There's no price that we can put on having healthy marriages.
To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
We're back, and speaking of grandparents, Sunday is Grandparents' Day.
Oh,
How about that?
That's fun. I'm a grandparent.
And I have notes here from our producer, Lisa Voyan, who says, why don't you ask Jill and Becky if they have any encouragement for grandparents who maybe they're in some pain due to troubled or estranged relationships with the kids and the grandkids. What do you say that could be encouraging?
Well, it's heartbreaking because you have dreams of being connected to your family for generations, and sometimes that doesn't happen. And so what I always tell people, and I've talked to a lot of, we have these calls all the time, and I say, try to be the best version of you that you can be and take your pain somewhere else, like a counselor or a pastor or a friend, because your expectation is that they're going to understand your pain, and they probably won't. They're just going to, defend even more. And the same token, it is also wise for you to own what is yours to own.
Yep.
And that's the hard part, isn't it, Jill? We talk to those folks all the time.
It is. And to not come in with the mantra, well, I did all this for you. I did the best I could, right? The kids don't want to hear that. You have to understand where they're at and see that they're in especially if they've got kids now, they're in a pressure cooker for themselves, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like we really have to take more of an observer bystander position and just be there to come along and support. And as Jim always says, keep your mouth shut, right?
That is what Jim Burns said.
Jim Burns, yeah.
Keep your mouth shut.
Right?
Well, sometimes we have to open it.
Be slow to
And
speak.
If you do open it, I always think about what kind of blessing can you offer either your kids or your grandkids. And I just talked to someone earlier today that was talking about speaking life into that next generation. That the hope of the world is, they're going to bring it, right? That's what we're hoping for.
Right. Be a support and a blessing. You no longer need to give them constructive criticism. Right.
Which is
all criticism.
It's just criticism.
Just all they hear is criticism, right?
People say constructive
criticism
input, is criticizing while you smile versus frown. That's really the only difference. All right, let's go to Shelley, Silver Spring, Maryland, listening on WAVA. Hi there, Shelley. How are you today?
I am fine, thank you. How are you all doing?
I'm doing well. Becky looks like she's doing well. Jill, you good? I think we're all good, 100%.
Holding down the fort in California.
I would like... No, I'm in Maryland, and I want to congratulate, I think it's Becky.
Yes,
on the
thank you.
Step up that she has. Yes, I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Shelley.
And I have always been listening to the program, and I have been a blessing.
Great,
but
thank you.
I am calling today because I have some concern for my son. My son is 19 years old, and he's on his third year at university.
Okay.
I must say we had a wonderful relationship over his years, but I noticed he has changed a lot right after graduating from high school.
Really?
We never have anything that was off the limit that we could not talk about. But from he was finished with high school, I noticed he has been a little bit on the withdrawal side. If I tell him to move a pin, he decides he's not going to move it until he believes it is time for him to move it. With his school, with his university, it is taking the life out of me just to get him to give me his timetable for each school year. He did not do well the first year at university. He went on a scholarship and he really messed up. He spent most of his time on his phone just chit-chatting with his friends and messed up his grades. And we have spoken. I hope he would have been doing much better. But now with him being on his third year at university, I have been asking him if he could get a part-time job to help to keep him, focused, because when he's not at school, he just wants to spend almost all of his time at the gym.
Okay.
Or with his friends on the phone. And I said, that's not productive. It's
Right.
good for you to be exercising and to be mindful of your health. But he does all these interviews for jobs. He gets the jobs, but he just never show up for any of the jobs. And I am so confused. I'm so hurt because I cannot understand why he would not want to work. Why is he afraid of working? I share with him why it is important for him to work. It is going to help his resume. It's also going to help to pay his tuition. But he just don't show up. And then he told me last week when I said, what happened to the job? Why you did not go start working?
Right.
He said, I need to stay out of his life and let him do him. And that was too much for me. And I'm like, I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question, Shelley, before you guys go on?
Yeah.
Is he your only child, your oldest child? Where does he fall in the family?
My only child, and he think he has entitlement. He thinks the whole world is just going to drop in his lap, and whatever he wants, he just need to write it on a paper, leave it on the kitchen counter, and he expects it to just be delivered. If he wants a sneakers, he just write it on the table, Mom, I'm going to need a sneakers. And the sneakers will appear, and he just believes that's how the world is. And I'm telling him that's not how it goes at 19 years old.
But,
wait a second.
Shelley, it is how his world goes.
Yeah.
Because if you follow through on his request, then that is his world.
Right.
So I'm hearing that he lives at home while going to school. He's not away.
Yeah, he lives at home.
Okay.
And here's the other thing. And when I hear this story, I'm wondering if anybody's ever told you your son doesn't have any problems.
Right.
Has anybody told you that?
A lot of people at church would tell me that I have a wonderful son, blah, 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 but that's not my expectation for him, and that's why I think I am hurting so much about it.
Right. But see, he doesn't have any problems because you are the one that have taken on the problem. And he doesn't have to have a job because Mom provides everything. So a job for him is optional. Sure, he'll go through the motions, prove that he can get the job, but he doesn't want to work because he doesn't have to.
Right.
Until you finally, as Mom, figure out that some of the things you're doing, now this is hard, so hold on. When you figure out, like all of us codependent people do, some of the things I'm doing aren't really for him at all. They're for me. They make me feel better. If I know he's got the sneakers he needs, I feel better, even though I'm thinking he should have worked and bought those sneakers. But I do it anyway.
Well, he doesn't have any needs.
Right.
He doesn't have a need And so even Shelley, when you're saying that he's writing a need down, that's not a need, it's a want. And then your confusion is from, you're feeling badly because he's not showing any initiative, and he doesn't have to show any initiative at this point. It's also interesting to me that he's 19, but he's in his third year of college. So he's obviously moved faster than a typical, because usually you're like 20.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Is
So-
that right? Tell us that
Yes,
about that.
Yes. What happened, I think he started school a little bit earlier. Normally, I think most children would start at 7 years old, but he started at 6. And I had to take him to the Ministry of Education, Board of Education, for him to do that test to prove that he was able to skip some grades.
Oh.
And that's
Okay,
what they
so-
did. So he left school at 16 years.
So
and I
he's
think,
young, though,
8 months.
emotionally.
Yes, and he's very, I'm telling you, he's so immature that he's not seen 19. He sees himself as still being just a young person, just going through life.
Yeah.
And I
Now-
was trying to tell him, at 19 years old, you can get married, you can have children, you can.
But
just
Shelley-
shine through one ear and go through the other one.
Yeah, all of your talking is for naught. The more he can just put up with your talking because you still do everything for him.
Yeah.
And so talking at
you
him
know what-
isn't
But
helping.
you know what is sad? Even when I try, so I bought this book about parents who are enablers, and I read it. I have been applying the lessons from the book, and I must tell you the truth. I have withdrawn a lot of things that I used to give him
Good.
privilege to. But what happened is that he has all of these friends. Like I say to him, I'm not giving you my car to go anywhere except for school and
So
church.
Shelley,
Guess
Shelley,
what happened? He has his friends.
listen, I have a question for you. Instead of talking about your son, what are you doing with your life now that he is older, that he's getting older?
And where is Dad? We got to find out about that too.
Okay, so his father died when he was very young, like about 7 years old. So he
Okay.
has my husband, who is his stepdad, and that's his father that he knows. And they
Okay.
have a good relationship, but he's not that stern of a father like me, who would tell him, if you do not come in the house by 10 o'clock, the door is locked, you will not be able to come in. He
Yeah.
would say, oh, he has to come inside. He's that type of father. I started going back to school because I told my son, I have made a lot of sacrifice for you. And it's pretty obvious that you're just taking everything for a joke. So I have to start focus on me now. So I decide I'm going to start going back to school, and I'm giving him his space for him to do what he needs to do. But like I shared with him, I said, my expectation is for you to go to college. You must go to college. You have to finish college. That's just the rule for the house.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, he's
Yeah.
going to do that. But,
Well, let me ask you this. Why do you think that you find yourself, I mean, you're reading a book about enabling and things and talking to us about this. Why do you think you want to give him everything and provide everything, even though you know it's not the best thing for him? What do you think is that driving force there, that need or desire way down deep inside of you that says, give him the sneakers, give him the support even though he doesn't show up for the job he just got? Have you ever thought about that? Can you give us some insight there?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I never want him to feel as if he has been left out in any way whatsoever during his time growing up.
Were you left
Because
out
I was
when
not
you were?
privileged. Yes. There were a lot of things that my parents were not able to afford us. We were
Yeah.
poor children. We were not able to get a lot of things. And while I came into this country, I make it a point of my duty that I would never allow him to feel as if he needs something and we are not able to
Right.
give it to him.
Okay.
Does
Now
not
let
mean
me
that
just
I'm spoiling.
let's just back away from this. You weren't provided everything you wanted and needed. And you were a strong, bright, articulate woman. Have you ever thought about that's why you are so strong and bright and articulate? Is you didn't get everything that you wanted or needed. And the struggle to survive or to get by with less
Or to work for it.
produced and work for it, produced an amazing human being. Now you're doing the
Yes.
opposite of what you went through, and it could, we'll talk about it after the break, but it could produce something less than an amazing human being, because it is in the struggle that the strength comes to the surface, that it develops. And I'm really hoping that we can give you some insight here that might make a difference in your life and in his. Really delighted to hear that you're going back to school and doing that for yourself. We'll take a break. 1-800-229-3000. This is New Life Live. So glad you're listening to us today.
For most of my life, I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit it's addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have Christ-centered partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found Life Recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 Steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 Steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
We are back, and I've talked a lot and just enjoying this conversation with Shelley, and I think she has insight and really an amazing mother. Becky, Jill,
Shelley?
What do you? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
So, Shelley, I think you have succeeded in not having your son, as Steve was saying, experience what you did growing up. It's really important, though, at a certain point, when they cross over into adulthood, to make some changes. And here's the thing. Your son has no idea what it's like to be poor or to go without.
Right.
He doesn't have that experience. So therefore, it's just normal for him. So he doesn't have the gratitude and the appreciation that you do for now the things that you're providing for him. And I would admit to him that you realize that part of your parenting has been to keep him from the pain that you went through, and how that may have been a disservice, and that was more about your need for him to be protected than maybe what was always in his best interest. And now, as a budding adult, you don't want to hinder him from the maturing that he needs to do, right? And so, once they become adults and they're done with high school, I realize it's just an age. It's not necessarily their maturity level. But it becomes a privilege to live at home. I like the fact that you tied, okay, you have to go to school to live here, right? His free time, as long as he is doing kind of the minimal expectations, his free time does get probably to be spent more like he wants to spend it, right? Like you have to shift from feeling like you have a say-so in every minute. Right? Versus, now, if he's failing classes, okay, then you have more of a say-so because you're paying for that, right? So he's got to go to school. Right. And then, so you're giving him a place to sleep and you're giving him food, right? Beyond that, he needs to step up and do some things. So you stop giving him all the extras until he meets you halfway, right?
Yes.
So I think it's important that you reevaluate and you are honest with him and you just say, I realize now, you need to see this as more of a privilege to be here. And so some things are going to be changing and I'm going to expect you to provide some things. And if you don't, well, then I guess you're choosing to go without. And it's sorry, Becky, it's you saying no to him is now for a different reason, right? You've accomplished him not feeling like a poor person. Now it's for building character in him. Because that's what's lacking.
And what I was thinking too, Shelley, is you have to guard against the resentment that you feel towards him. Because what Jill is talking about is a normal, typical kind of launching, if you do it right, you're launching him strong. And that's what you want to get focused on. But when you're coming from a place of resentment, he doesn't appreciate it, he doesn't understand it, you are resenting him. Mm-hmm. And that changes your relationship with him. And instead of seeing him as a young man who's coming into adulthood, you see him as this spoiled child that doesn't appreciate anything that you've done and sacrificed for him. And so you've got to be able to shift that a little bit towards an adult to an adult relationship. And I know there's lots to go with that, like Jill was just saying, but guard against that resentment.
Well, I think a lot of times you do things and you think he'll come around.
Right.
And then you look back and you go, wow, look at that, 2 years and he's not coming around. Mm-hmm. And so that's when you have to assess and do some things differently. So we've told you a lot of things. Well, is there anything that you think you might do differently as a result of some of the things that we've said here, or are you just pretty much going to stay on that same course? What are you thinking?
Oh, no. I think you have given me a lot of information that I certainly needed in such a time as this. I have been taking notes while you guys have been talking. I realized that my son has tricked me again because when I sent him away for this summer, I was just tired of the fact that he just was not moving forward in the direction where I think it would be for his own good. And I sent him away for the summer to spend some time with my niece, my sister, with the expectation that he would analyze, look at himself, see where he needs to make changes. And he called me every day and he whined and he complained, oh, you don't love me anymore. Why did you send me over here for the summer? And I want to come back to school over here. I don't want to go to school in California. I need to come back to college. And he tricked me so badly with his cry, and I took him back because I thought he'd change. And he came back and started being his old way, going back his old ways again. But all of the advice that you all have given me, I will be going home. I will be writing things down, and I will be sitting with him, with my husband, and we will have a big discussion going forward.
Let us also, Shelley, connect you with a counselor in the area, because I think you're going to need some extra help, because obviously it's not just the two of you helping him. It's a dynamic that has to be disrupted and changed.
Yeah. I'll send you this book about college students. I think it'll be helpful to you. And thank you for your phone call, and I hope that you'll be able to follow through and that your husband will be quite supportive of the things that you want to do. You're listening to New Life Live. We'll be back.
My girlfriends and I have been searching for so long to try to find an event to attend.
Lumina is a new women's conference designed to inspire your faith so you can lead and live confidently from God's Word.
It was nice to come here and just realign myself with who God says He is in my life.
The Lumina Conference is a 2-day experience. 1 full day of worship and teaching in Museum of the Bible's World Stage Theater, and a half-day guided tour through Museum of the Bible.
You are literally immersed in the Word of God. You can walk through the Old Testament. You can walk through the New Testament.
Lumina is for women of all generations, cultures, and denominations. It's a great place to gather with women from your church and community.
You want some fellowship and you want to be strengthened, this is the place you want to be.
This year's Lumina Conference is October 27th and 28th in Washington, D.C.
It was absolutely life-changing.
For more information, go to luminawomen.org.
I have given to New Life regularly because I have so many people that I am referring to New Life who so benefit from the ministry. I just can't imagine what would happen in my area if New Life wasn't available to us.
You can help New Life Live stay on the air by joining Club New Life today. When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, we'll send you the new member thank you gift of all 8 100-day devotionals, including 100 Days of Prayer, 100 Days of Freedom from Depression, and 100 Days of Peace. There are also ongoing benefits like the monthly Club New Life CD or download, access to the Club New Life video library, quarterly resources, free shipping on purchased resources, discounts on workshops, and quarterly online meetings with Steve. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Support Club New Life, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
We're back, and really enjoyed talking with Shelley there, and she seems like she wants to make a difference here in her son's life. And
well, so many parents can relate to that, right? Trying to give your kids more and then not realizing how it hurts them.
And actually, in any relationship, right? Yes. You can get into that trap where you have the best intentions.
Yes.
Right.
You think it's going to be a great idea, and you never even ask the other person what they thought about it.
Right. How many people have crashed on the rocks with best intentions? And, you know, I brought up this word, codependency. And a lot of times we have used that word as a shaming label, like a sign of weakness or whatever. And let's talk about that a little bit. What did codependency used to mean, and then what happened to that?
Well, I think what you just said, I think it got to be a shame label as opposed to what it is. What my working definition has always been, codependency is exerting control in an out-of-control situation.
Exerting control in an out-of-control
situation.
Okay. But now there's another kind of codependency that kind of gives the message, I'm not in control, I'm just going to attach to something. I'm dependent on them, and they're sick.
Right. Well, many times people don't recognize that they are exerting control. They're just taking care of things. Like this call we just had, you know, that he couldn't do without anything.
Right.
Well, it's actually a form of control.
Right.
Because when you don't control, you don't provide for every need.
Right.
Because you realize that people get stronger when they figure out how do I take care of myself, and what do I need to do in order to live my life?
Right.
Right. And so it's not being able to also bear someone else being out of control, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so often it's when we do more for others, right? We are invested and work harder at their lives than they do.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
With the hope that if we can get them in a good place, then we'll get something that comes back to us. So it's
Which
a
doesn't
really
happen.
indirect way of controlling our own lives.
Yeah.
Well, the situation in dependency, when you think about if you are in a relationship with somebody who's struggling with some kind of dependency,
Right.
alcoholism, for example,
Right.
the codependent person is the one who's calling into the job to make sure that the person who's the alcoholic
Right.
doesn't lose their job.
Okay.
Right. Right.
They're the ones that are paying the tickets. They're the ones that are driving them home, which is good, but
Or they're the wife of a pastor who won't demand that he get help because
it's too
then he
embarrassing.
loses job and,
Right,
and
right.
then all of
The
that.
shame and
So you just continue to hope or wish.
Right.
It's more wishing
It's more
than
wishing,
hope because you don't have much hope there, because God doesn't just swoop in and change everything and mess it all. I mean, you need to make some
Right.
choices, and the person with the problem needs to make some choices, and it is very hard for a pastor to get the help that they need. In fact, we've developed this this new program we're developing for pastors where it's all anonymous, nobody knows anything, because it's so hard. We want them to have a safe place. But even though it's difficult, you don't want to waste an entire life and the help is never there, so the pastor ends up being a duplicitous fraud in
Right.
front of the people because nobody really demanded you need to get the help that you need.
Right. And when you rescue people from their consequences, I mean, part of it is because their consequences often affect more than just them.
yes.
Well,
yes.
right.
And so that's part of the rescuing. And
Yeah.
I think that codependency is not an all or nothing. It's not,
Right.
oh, it's bad, you should never be codependent. I think, that idea of interdependency, we need to support and help each other. But when it's clear that people are not changing, that our help is actually hurting, right, or isn't doing any good, that's when you need to step back, and people do need to suffer the consequences. Because they're
Many
not
times, well, and Jill, you've talked about this before, it's the waiting well. It's, I can't stand to see you struggle.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to step in because I can't stand it.
I
It's
can't-
my, yes.
I'm too anxious, right?
Yes.
So
Well-
if you're not going to do it, I'll do it.
You know, my good friend Dave Stoop,
Yeah.
one of the most painful things for him was the day that he realized, his son was a heroin addict, and that when he realized he was doing things for himself, not really for his
Right.
son.
Right.
Yeah.
Things that would minimize embarrassment or whatever. And when he saw that, because this is who Dave was, when he saw it, he didn't let it stay that way. And so police come over again, the stereo's been stolen, and policeman says, so who do you think stole the stereo? And Dave said, it was my son.
Yeah.
Policeman says, okay. And he folds up his little booklet, and Dave said, no, I'm going to press charges. And he did, and had him arrested. And that was the beginning of seeking help versus seeking
Right.
to keep things under control or
Right.
keep things
Right.
quiet.
I think, and that's an extreme example. It
It
got
is,
to that
it
point,
is.
but there are so many places in our day-to-day life where we can't tolerate the discomfort of owning up to what is wrong in a
Right.
relationship. Whether
Correct.
you're identifying, that doesn't feel good to me. What you just said doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Those little steps towards being a whole person in a relationship, as opposed to, I can only be me if I have complete control of the whole situation.
Right. And how sad that is, because control is an illusion.
Right.
But it's what you get used to, the pattern and all. I'll tell you, it's courageous when people who have been used to that step out of that and finally say that's not going to be the way it's going to go for the rest of my life. I'm going to do it different. Very tough, very hard, but people do it all the time, and it does take courage. Now, we have some things that help people do that very thing, and coming up real soon, like, well, tomorrow, we're doing the Every Man's Battle workshop online. And it's more affordable, and it's easier. You don't have to travel, and it's right there on your computer. And we see amazing results because there's follow-up. This Sustained Victory group becomes part of the recovery process. I don't know. I think they still have the procrastinators special going, which I imagine. I'm not sure, but there's a spot or two.
Quite a few of them.
If you called, you could get on. I'm just saying. Tell them I said demand that they put you in a group.
Do you know one of the things that we'll ask folks when they struggle with porn addiction or affairs?
Yeah.
The first question is, well, what have you done? Like, what have you done about it?
Yeah.
Have you seen a counselor? What have you done? And I think this opportunity, this Every Man's Battle online, is a perfect next step for those of you who have not done anything,
right,
except for give good excuses. And they're not really good excuses. They're just excuses.
Or if what you've done is you've read your Bible more and prayed more. Because this isn't, and we're really for
we love that.
Bible reading and prayer.
Right.
But this is a problem that needs the help of the group.
Yeah, you can't just white knuckle it.
Right.
No.
Right.
And as I've said 1,000 times, trying harder just makes trying harder.
Yes.
So quit trying harder.
Right.
And surrender. That is the key. And this is a really easy surrender. You're in your home, privacy, on your computer. All right.
Well, and I also think about the women who are in relationship with men who are dealing or not dealing with this struggle. This could be the thing that you say, listen, if you do nothing else, just start with this.
Yeah.
Call. Just call 1-800-NEW-LIFE, and you're going to find out information that you don't know right now that could change your life.
Right.
And I think so many times, unfortunately, it is the wives, it is the women in their life that makes that boundary that makes it happen.
Yeah. And sadly, if you don't demand it, many times it doesn't happen.
Right.
All right, when we come back, we've got more New Life Live. And glad you're with us today. 1-800-229-3000 is the number to call. Also, I'll just mention, October the 7th is our Life Recovery Connection. It's our online conference. Oh, it's also online. I think it costs $29 is all.
Yeah.
And what a great thing. If you've been in recovery a long time, some fresh voices and perspectives. And if you've never been in recovery, you learn the fundamental basics of how this whole program works. It's pretty amazing the way it works when you start to work the steps, doing an inventory. It isn't just about how I hurt somebody, but how did I get hurt? Let's look at that. And what was my reaction to it? We'll be back.
We all face days where life throws us a curveball and our routines or plans get disrupted. Things we wanted to do are forced to take a backseat to the unexpected demands of the day. If you normally listen to New Life Live on a radio station, well, you might not be able to that day. And on these hectic days when you're feeling stressed or frazzled, hearing the sound of counsel given on New Life Live is just what you need to navigate the unexpected things of life.
Every time I'm troubled or I have a problem, I'll cut on New Life, and there's always something that is said that is helpful to me.
By listening, I have learned more than I can ever express about how God wants me to live.
Download the New Life app for the easiest way to listen wherever you are and at a time that's convenient for you, or watch the show on our YouTube channel. You can even subscribe to our podcast from your favorite podcast provider. You never have to miss a day of New Life. Wherever you are, we are.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn, and for over 34 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
I'm an addict, and I'm trying to get God in my life again.
Our Christ-centered treatment programs can help you break free to embrace all that God has for your life and your family.
I just want to thank you guys for bringing me to a relationship with Jesus.
There really is help for marital problems, depression, addictions, panic attacks, and feelings of hopelessness.
I came back with so many tools to help me prepare myself to fight this struggle and this battle that I have every day.
You can start living again today, living the life God intended for you. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
They did care, and they did follow up very lovingly, and it made all the difference in my life.
Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Someone who cares is waiting at the other end of the phone. God can open the door to a better tomorrow. Call 1-800-639-5433.
To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
We're back, and it is going to be our 35th anniversary, and there was a time when it was John and Henry and me or somebody else, and at the break, Becky was saying, let's play one of those old phone calls, John and Henry.
Yeah,
so
we love
Terry,
those throwbacks.
Terry McIntosh, why don't you throw one up and let's listen. Barbara, Washington, D.C., WAVA. Hi, Barbara. Welcome. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you. How's life? How can we help you?
Well, this is my question. I've been listening to the broadcast for some time, and I heard you all mention a phrase, dependent controlling, where someone is trying to be so dependent that they kind of control your life by not being,
Actually, Barbara, people don't try to be dependent. It's more of a.
Okay.
It's kind of a state people have. Have to.
Okay. Well, I've been married over 20 years, and we have 3 children that are pretty independent. They're grown and pretty much gone, but it seems to me that my husband is dependent controlling. And I need to understand what it looks like and what I can do, or what I...
Then let us understand what it looks like in a couple of examples of what you consider that, so we can see if that's kind of what's going on.
Okay. For instance, it's he and myself and a teenager at home. So, let's divide up the chores and get things done. Oh, I can't do that. Okay.
Okay.
Well, then the teenager myself will do the work. Can you come up with dinner? Oh, I can't do that. I don't feel like that, or I don't want that. I don't want to. I don't feel like.
So far, I haven't heard dependent, Barbara.
Excuse me?
So far, I haven't heard dependent. I've heard like disconnected or
not very helpful,
self-involved or irresponsible,
lazy.
But yeah, I've heard lazy, but I haven't heard dependent yet.
Okay. Okay, so I want to go and take care of business. Well, what, you're going to leave me? You won't be home with me? Okay, but if I'm home, then he's watching TV anyway.
No, hold on a second. When you say you're going to go take care of some business, he doesn't want you to leave?
Right.
Now, that does sound dependent.
That part is dependent.
Right, and it's and in my mind, and I may be wrong. That's what I'm calling. In my mind, it's I don't want to do these things so that you will have to do these things. I don't want to help clean so that you have to be home and help clean. In my mind, if I'm doing one part of what takes to run the household, then, he should be able to take care of another part. In his mind, he's like, well, why don't we do everything together? Which means when we are together, that he does nothing.
Right. Well, I would just, first of all, I would invite him ever so strongly to go to counseling, because any good counselor would be really, really concerned about him, not only for the marriage, but also for him. This can't be a happy person. Somebody doesn't contribute,
right.
Somebody doesn't serve, somebody doesn't give. That's not a happy person, right?
Okay.
Does he seem happy to you?
No, not not consistently.
Yeah. And secondly, though, I would probably suggest, and this sometimes is, step 2 or 3 or 4 down the line, but I think you need to figure out how you're going to stop doing some things for him and let him experience the consequences of not getting off the couch.
Right.
You don't contribute. If you're not going to do anything, okay, I'll make myself something to eat. I hope you find something.
Right.
If you're not going to contribute, wash your own clothes.
Mm-hmm.
Et cetera, et cetera. But I think you probably need a good counselor to help you figure that out. But the point is, the Bible's pretty clear. If any man doesn't work, don't let him eat. And that's a principle that everybody is supposed to be contributing, or they should have to suffer the consequences.
Okay. That makes sense.
Okay.
Let us send you a copy of our book, Boundaries in Marriage, and we talk about
things.
How to deal with a resistant spouse in Boundaries in Marriage, so we'll send you that.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Get that off to you. And
guys, every intervention, of somebody who's either controlling or dependent or disengaged, it's like the Bible teaches. We're supposed to be speaking the truth in love. There's always got to be some grace and love there, because people need to know that they matter and that how they act affects other people in their hearts. And there's got to be some truth and structure there.
Yeah.
Some kind of a path.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you, it was always great doing radio with them. Since then, I've really been thinking about it is so cruel when people present the truth without love. But it's also not a good thing when, because you love somebody, you let them not be so truthful.
Right.
And you give them too much grace, and so the truth is lost. It's important that honesty is the foundation of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can't be honest with others, can't be honest with God and with ourselves, then we're missing what life is really all about. And I think that's one of the great things about recovery and life recovery is rigorous honesty is required.
Yes.
Most recovery programs say, some people are mentally ill and may not benefit from the steps. And it says, but if they're honest, they probably will benefit from the steps, even though there is some kind, of course, these were written in the 30s, some type of mental illness that's there. And it really is true that the honest approach to life eliminates certain thoughts that we have and certain options that we have, and it's a great foundation.
And we have to be courageous. I mean, that's the hard part, because honesty doesn't always feel good.
No.
To say it or to experience it.
No.
But that's where our courage, it can change everything about our relationships. And if you don't exercise honesty, you live a false life.
Right. And what you're doing with dishonesty is you're trying to manipulate the outcome or avoid the consequence, which is the opposite of surrendering to God.
Right.
Right. And then there are unspoken expectations, right? And then resentment builds up.
Right.
And so then you start treating another person differently when maybe you haven't been honest or asked them to be honest with you about what things look like, right? For each of you.
Well, if you have not ever been in a recovery program, there are life recovery groups online. There are life recovery groups all across the nation. And on October the 7th, we're doing a Life Recovery Connection. That's our online conference. And you could join us. All you need to do is go to newlife.com and look for Life Recovery there, and it'll tell you all about it. Intimacy in Marriage is October the 20th, and that's in Dallas. And if you register by October the 6th, you receive the early birdie special, which is really a great rate. And then Lumina is coming up in D.C. That's the October 27, 28, 2 days this year. Last year's 1 day. This year, double dog amazing. And you go to luminawomen.org. And women said, best event we've ever been to.
Yeah.
Best women's conference ever. Restore's in D.C. on November the 3rd. Call us if you need us. 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We love you. Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Dr. Jill. And all of you who listen, watch, and pray and support us. God bless you. See you next time. Call us.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again on Monday for New Life Live.
Hi, thank you for watching New Life Live. You know, New Life Live is a Christian counseling program where we deal with the hard questions about life, relationships, kids, free choice, freedom of will, whatever. It's all right there on New Life Live every day, every weekday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. If you want to call into the live broadcast, you can find the schedule on newlife.com or click the social media link right below. You can see every episode of New Life Live on the New Life YouTube channel. Watch it with a friend, watch it later. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you'll never miss another episode. So if you want to listen on the go, download the app. The link is right below. And I hope if you need some information, if you want to get some help, you'll call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. And I'll see you next time.